the great crystal chamber on Kepler. 442 be filled with alien voices as representatives from across the galaxy gather for the most important vote in centuries. The air shimmered with different atmospheres needed for each species to breathe. Tall, insect-like creatures clicked their mandibles nervously, while crystalline beings hummed in harmonic frequencies that hurt human ears. Admiral Korthvel of the Draknari Empire stood at the center podium, his scaled hands gripping the speaking platform. His red eyes swept across the assembled delegates as silence fell over the chamber. Behind him, a massive holographic display showed a small blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. "Earth," he said, letting the word hang in the air like a curse. "For 30 years, we have watched the species spread across the galaxy like a plague. They take our technology without permission. They corrupt our young with their violent entertainment. They refuse to follow the laws that keep peace between civilized worlds." A ripple of agreement passed through the chamber. The Vorthak delegate, a being made entirely of living crystal, chimed in with musical tones that translated to, "They do not respect the natural order. They believe they are equal to species that have ruled the stars for millennia." Korthvel nodded grimly. "Today, we correct this mistake. Today, we remind the humans of their place in the galaxy." The vote began. One by one, each species cast their decision. The Zephyrians, with their hive mind spanning billions of individuals, spoke as one. "We vote for isolation and control." The gas-dwelling Nethari floated in their containment suits and agreed. Even the peaceful Aldorians, known for their wisdom, voted yes. The result was unanimous. Resolution 2847 passed without a single dissenting voice. "The human species is hereby declared a threat to galactic peace," Korthvel announced. "They will be isolated in their home system and brought under Confederation control. If they resist, they will be eliminated." The transmission reached Earth during the early morning hours in Geneva. General Lee Jinho sat in the Seoul Defense Council chambers, watching the alien faces on a large screen as they delivered their ultimatum. Around him, other human leaders listened in silence. But something was wrong with their reactions. Were the aliens expected fear or panic? They saw something else entirely. General Lee's mouth curved into a slow smile that made the alien delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Thank you for informing us of your decision," Lee said politely. "We appreciate the advance notice." The alien transmission ended, leaving the human leaders alone in their chamber. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Lee turned to his aide, Colonel Park Mina, who was already reaching for her communicator. "Send the signal," Lee ordered quietly. "Protocol 7 is now active." Within minutes, the message spread across Earth through hidden channels that had been prepared for decades. Military bases that looked abandoned suddenly came alive with activity. Civilian factories began producing items that had nothing to do with their official purpose. Children playing in schools noticed their teachers checking emergency supplies that had always been there but never used. At Luna Station, Commander Kim Tail monitored alien communications with his team. The intercepted messages from the Confederation fleet showed they were already moving toward Earth, confident in their overwhelming numbers and superior technology. "They think we're just another primitive world," said Lieutenant Yuhana, shaking her head. "They have no idea what we really are." Kim smiled grimly. "They've been watching us for 30 years, but they only saw what we wanted them to see. They think humans are peaceful because that's the face we showed them." Across Earth, the reaction to the alien declaration was not what any outside observer would expect. There was no mass panic, no desperate calls for negotiation, no leaders begging for mercy on international broadcasts. Instead, there was an odd sense of relief, as if humanity had been waiting for this moment. In military academies around the world, instructors pulled out lesson plans that had been marked classified for 3 decades. Students who had studied ancient human conflicts suddenly understood why those lessons had been mandatory. The history of warfare that had seemed like ancient stories was suddenly very relevant. Dr. Choi Do-Hyen received his activation orders deep beneath the Australian desert. For 20 years, he had maintained the cover of a mining operation. Now, As massive blast doors opened and revealed the true purpose of his facility, he contacted similar installations across 6 continents. Project Prometheus is online, he reported to Earth Command. All manufacturing centers are ready. The weapons and ships they had been secretly building were not designed for exploration or peaceful contact. They were designed for one purpose: killing efficiently. Back in the Geneva Command Center, General Lee reviewed reports flooding in from around the world. Every hidden preparation, every secret project, every contingency plan developed since first contact with the aliens was now in motion. "Sir," Colonel Park approached with a data pad. "All sectors report ready. The fleet will be prepared to launch in 72 hours. Lee nodded, still wearing that unsettling smile. "Good. Let them come with their declarations and their threats. Let them bring their mighty fleets and their superior numbers." He walked to the window overlooking the city below, where millions of humans went about their daily lives, seemingly unaware that their species had just been declared an enemy of the galaxy. "They wanted to remind us of our place," Lee said quietly. "They're about to learn what that place really is." The transformation of Earth began at dawn. Admiral Song Yuri stood on the command deck of Orbital Platform Alpha, watching as the planet below came alive with purpose. Cities that had seemed peaceful just hours before now buzzed with coordinated activity that looked almost like magic. Military units from different nations dissolved their old boundaries overnight. Korean soldiers worked alongside American pilots. Russian engineers shared data with Japanese technicians. The various flags and uniforms meant nothing now. There was only one banner that mattered: the Unified Terran Defense Force. "Status report," Yuri ordered, her calm voice hiding the fact that this moment had been planned for 30 years. "All ground installations report ready," replied Commander Han Soen from her position at the communications array. "The hidden factories are coming online exactly as scheduled." Deep beneath the red dirt of the Australian outback, Dr. Choi Do-hein walked through corridors that officially did not exist. For 2 decades, satellite images had shown only a small mining operation. Mining trucks went in and out daily, carrying what appeared to be ordinary minerals. But now, as massive blast doors slid open, the truth was revealed. The underground facilities stretched for kilometers in every direction. Assembly lines that had been disguised as or processing equipment began producing their real products. Ships emerged from construction bays that had been hidden beneath fake mining shafts. These were not exploration vessels or cargo haulers. These were weapons designed specifically for war. "The ships are beautiful," said engineer Yoon Ji-won, watching as the first completed destroyer moved along the assembly line. Simple, efficient, deadly. The design was purely human. While alien ships were built with elegant curves and artistic flourishes, human warships looked like what they were: tools for killing. Every line served a purpose. Every system had a backup. Every weapon was positioned for maximum effect. Dr. Choi activated his communicator. "Project Prometheus reports full operational status. We can begin production runs immediately." Similar reports came from 5 other continents. Hidden facilities in the Amazon rainforest, buried beneath the Sahara Desert, concealed in the mountains of Tibet, and tucked under the ice of Antarctica. All had been waiting for this day. Meanwhile, in major cities around the world, civilians received messages on their personal devices. The orders were simple and had been rehearsed in mandatory drills that most people thought were just emergency preparedness exercises. In Seoul, factory worker Kim Tae-min read his message and walked a storage room he had never been allowed to enter. Inside were components for military equipment that his factory had been secretly producing alongside consumer electronics. He had always wondered why some assembly lines ran at night with skeleton crews. In London, teacher Park Mina opened a sealed envelope that had been locked in her desk for years. The lesson plans inside were not about literature or history. They were about military organization, logistics, and tactical thinking, subjects that would help prepare the next generation for what was coming. "Children," she announced to her classroom, "today we begin learning about the real world." The mobilization was not just military. It was complete. Every human on Earth had a role to play, and most had been training for that role without fully understanding why. Major Lim Geo monitored the alien communications from a listening post hidden in the Swiss mountains. The intercepted messages showed that Confederation fleets were gathering at staging areas throughout the galaxy. Their numbers were overwhelming, thousands of ships carrying weapons that could crack planets. They have superior firepower, she reported to Earth Command. Better shields, faster engines, more advanced sensors. General Lee Jinho nodded from his command center. And what do we have? Something they don't understand, replied Dr. Bei Sujin, head of the Alien Psychology Division. We have studied every species in the Confederation for 30 years. We know their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears, their blind spots. She activated a holographic display, showing detailed files on each alien species. The Draknari were powerful warriors, but followed rigid codes of honor that made them predictable. The Vorthak were logical, but could not understand concepts that defied pure reason. The Zephyrians shared a collective consciousness that could be disrupted. Every species in the galaxy evolved as either predator or prey, Sujin explained. The predators became strong and confident. The prey became careful and clever. But humans evolved as both predator and prey, then became something else entirely. Commander O'Hiram reviewed the tactical plans from her position on Earth's newest and most secret weapon, a cloaked shipyard hidden in the asteroid belt. The ships being built there incorporated technology that the aliens had unknowingly shared during 30 years of peaceful contact. We learned from them, she said to her engineering team. Every cultural exchange, every trade agreement, every diplomatic meeting was a chance to study their technology and adapt it to our needs. The irony was not lost on anyone. The same alien arrogance that led them to dismiss humans as primitives had also made them careless about sharing their knowledge. They had treated humans like children who could never truly understand advanced concepts. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As night fell over Earth, General Lee made his way to the observation deck of the command center. Below him, millions of lights twinkled in cities around the world. To an outside observer, it would look peaceful and normal, but Lee knew better. Every light represented someone preparing for war. Every family understood what was at stake. Every human on the planet was now part of a machine designed for one purpose: survival. Let them come, Lee said quietly to the darkness above. We're ready. The Confederation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, like a wall of metal and death. 200 ships stretched across the darkness, their hulls gleaming with alien alloys and bristling with weapons that could turn worlds to ash. At the center of the formation, the massive Draknari flagship, Eternal Honor, led the way with Admiral Korthvel commanding from its bridge. Sensor readings, Commander Vexhai, Korthvel ordered, his scale fingers drumming against his command chair. Around him, the bridge crew worked with military precision, confident in their overwhelming superiority. The human homeworld shows normal civilian activity, reported Vexhai, studying the displays. No significant military presence detected. Their largest ships appeared to be cargo vessels and scientific platforms. Korthvel smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. As expected, they have no real military to speak of. This will be over quickly. The Confederation had brought their best. The Draknari Third Fleet with its heavy battleships, the Vorthak war crystals that could slice through any known armor, and 3 Zephyrian collective ships whose hive minds could coordinate attacks with perfect precision. It was enough firepower to conquer 10 systems. From the bridge of the flagship, they could see Earth hanging in the distance like a blue marble. So small, so fragile, so defenseless. Open a channel to the human government, Korthvel commanded. Let them hear the terms of their surrender. The communication array activated, sending a signal toward Earth. For several minutes, there was no response. Then a calm female voice answered from the human homeworld. This is Admiral Song Yuri of the Terran Defense Force. Welcome to Sol. We've been waiting. Something in her tone made the alien bridge crew exchange uncertain glances. There was no fear in the human's voice. No panic. No desperation. Just calm acknowledgement, as if she had been expecting them for tea. I am Admiral Korthvel of the Galactic Confederation, he announced. You will surrender immediately or face complete destruction. I appreciate the offer, Admiral Song replied, her voice carrying an odd note that might have been amusement. But we must decline. Before Korthville could respond, his sensor operator called out an alarm. Sir, new contacts emerging from Jupiter's shadow. On the main screen, the human fleet revealed itself. 50 ships materialized where sensors had detected nothing moments before. They were smaller than Confederation vessels, built with harsh angles and practical lines that spoke of pure function over form. But something about them radiated menace like heat from a fire. Only 50 ships? Commander Vexhai scoffed. We outnumber them 4-1. Then this will be over quickly, Korthville agreed. All ships, attack formation. Show these primitives the price of defiance. The Confederation fleet advanced in perfect order, weapons charging, shields raised a maximum. It should have been a slaughter. The humans should have fled or begged for mercy. Instead, something impossible happened. Music began broadcasting on all communication frequencies, not pleas for peace or diplomatic messages, but human war songs. The harsh, driving rhythms of metal music mixed with ancient battle hymns, and something else the aliens didn't recognize. The sound of humans laughing. Captain Jang Miho commanded the lead human destroyer, Soul's Fury, and watched the alien formation approach. His crew worked with practiced efficiency, but there was something unsettling about their behavior. They weren't just preparing for battle. They were enjoying it. All stations report ready, announced Lieutenant Kong Sungo from the weapons station. Targeting solutions locked on priority targets. Good, Miho replied, his own voice carrying that strange human amusement. Let's show them what we learned from studying their tactics. The battle began when the Vorthak War crystals fired their cutting beams. The energy weapons that could slice through any known material struck the human shields and scattered like light through a prism. The humans had been watching alien weapons tests for 30 years and had built their defenses accordingly. But it was the human response that shocked the Confederation into stunned silence. Instead of standing off and trading fire like civilized warriors, the human ships charged directly into the alien formation like wild animals attacking prey. They're ramming us, screamed Commander Vexhai as a destroyer, Pusan Strike, slammed into a Draknari cruiser. But just before impact, the human crew escaped in perfectly timed evacuation pods, leaving their ship to explode against the enemy hull. The humans used their vessels as weapons, sacrificing them in coordinated attacks that the aliens had never seen before. But the crews didn't die with their ships. They escaped at the last possible moment, picked up by rescue craft, and immediately transferred to reserve vessels to continue fighting. This is impossible, Korthville roared. No species fights like this. On the human flagship Inchan's Hammer, Admiral Song Yuri watched the battle unfold with clinical interest. Her tactical officer, Commander Bei Sujin, provided updates with disturbing calm. Enemy morale is breaking, Sujin reported. Their formation is collapsing. They can't adapt to our tactics. The aliens fought with honor and following rules that had governed galactic warfare for centuries. The humans fought to win by any means necessary. When alien ships damaged human vessels, the humans didn't retreat for repairs. They used the damaged ships as suicide weapons while the crews transferred to fresh vessels. 3 hours after it began, the battle was over. Of the 200 ships that had entered the Sol system with such confidence, only 60 limped away into hyperspace. The rest were floating debris or had surrendered after their crews abandoned ship. Commander Vexhai, badly wounded and barely conscious, managed to send one final report to Confederation headquarters. They don't fight like any species we know. They fight like demons who smile while they kill. 3 months after their crushing defeat at Sol, the Galactic Confederation learned a terrifying truth. The battle had not been an ending, but a beginning. Human ships began appearing throughout the galaxy like ghosts in night, striking with surgical precision before vanishing again into the darkness. Commander O'Hiram led the most feared of these phantom forces. Her squadron had earned a name whispered in terror across alien worlds, the Ghost Fleet. Their ships appeared on no sensors until the moment they attacked. They struck military bases, communication hubs, and supply convoys with ruthless efficiency, then disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Target acquired. reported Lieutenant Parkmina from the sensor station of their flagship Shadow of Soul. On the main screen, the massive Zephyrian collective station orbited the gas giant Proxima Tau. The station housed the Queen Mind, the central consciousness that controlled billions of Zephyrian drones across 3 star systems. Remember the mission? Hiram addressed her crew. We're not here to destroy the station. We're here to send a message that will echo across the galaxy. The attack began at what the Zephyrians considered a safe distance. Human missiles, moving faster than their sensors could track, struck the station's outer defenses. But these were not ordinary explosives. They carried a payload designed specifically for the Zephyrian collective consciousness, pure, concentrated fear. Dr. Kim Taeho had spent years studying the Zephyrian hive mind. He discovered that their shared consciousness, while giving them incredible coordination, also created a fatal weakness. Fear experienced by one could spread like wildfire through their entire network. The missiles released clouds of chemical compounds that triggered primal terror responses in Zephyrian biology. As the fear spread through the station, it transmitted directly to the Queen Mind, who broadcast across the collective network to every drone in 3 star systems. The psychic scream that followed could be felt across half the galaxy. Billions of Zephyrian warriors suddenly found themselves paralyzed by overwhelming terror. Their ships stopped mid-flight. Their soldiers collapsed in panic. Entire fleets became helpless as their crews experienced nightmares made real. Mission accomplished. Hiram reported to Earth Command. The Zephyrian 3rd, 5th, and 7th fleets are all disabled. They'll be fighting their own fears for weeks. But the Ghost Fleet was only one part of humanity's expanding war. While their ships struck from the darkness, another battle was being fought in the shadows of alien society itself. Agent Kong Sungo activated his communication device in the underground tunnels beneath the Draknari capital world. For 15 years, he had lived among them as a cultural attaché, learning their language, their customs, and most importantly, their fears. The Draknari prided themselves on being the galaxy's greatest warriors, but every warrior culture had legends that kept them awake at night. Phase 2 is beginning. He transmitted to similar agents across 12 worlds. Activate the Nightmare Protocol. The Draknari had ancient legends about the Silent Death, invisible warriors who could walk through walls and kill without sound. It was just mythology, stories told to frighten children. But when Draknari soldiers began finding their comrades dead with no sign of how they died, the legend suddenly seemed very real. The truth was simpler, but more terrifying. Humans had spent years mapping every military installation, every security system, every guard rotation. They moved through alien bases like smoke, leaving behind calling cards that drove their enemies to the edge of madness. The phrase, "Remember Earth," written in the victim's own blood. Major Lim Jio coordinated these psychological operations from a hidden base in the asteroid belt. Her screen showed reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The aliens were no longer just fighting human ships. They were fighting human ideas, human fears, human nightmares that spread faster than any weapon. The Vorthak are requesting emergency reinforcements for all their bases, she reported to General Lee Jinho. They're convinced we have some kind of invisibility technology. Lee smiled that cold smile his enemies had learned to fear. Let them think that. Fear the unknown is more powerful than fear the known. The campaign was working beyond their wildest expectations. The Confederation had expected to fight human ships and human soldiers. They had not expected to fight human psychology. Every species in the galaxy had fears buried deep in their racial memory, and humans had studied them all. The peaceful Eldorians, who had voted for humanity's destruction, found their meditation centers infiltrated by voices whispering their most ancient taboos. The gas-dwelling Nethari discovered that their atmospheric suits could be compromised in ways that turned their breathing apparatus into instruments of terror. Even the logical Vorthak began experiencing something their crystal minds had never known: doubt. Commander Yunjivan intercepted communications between Confederation worlds and translated them for Earth Command. The messages painted a picture of an enemy slowly losing its sanity. "They're calling us the Smiling Death," she reported. Apparently, our captured pilots were laughing during interrogation sessions. The few human prisoners taken by alien forces had become sources of terror rather than information. They didn't break under torture or beg for mercy. Instead, They told stories of Earth's history, of humanity's wars, of the things their species had done to survive on a planet that tried to kill them every day. We evolved on a death world. One captured pilot had told his Draknari interrogators. Everything on our planet wanted to eat us, poison us, or tear us apart. And we not only survived, we became the apex predators. What do you think we'll do to you? The galaxy was learning that declaring war on humanity had awakened something that had been sleeping among the stars. Not hiding, not waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves, but hunting, studying, preparing. The hunt had begun, and the prey was finally realizing what they had become. The great crystal chamber on Kepler, 442b, looked very different than it had 8 months earlier. The same alien representatives sat in their assigned places, breathing the same mixture of atmospheres. But everything had changed. Where once they had spoken with confident voices about crushing a primitive species, now they whispered in fear about the humans who had turned their galaxy into a hunting ground. Admiral Song Yuri walked into the chamber with calm, measured steps. Her uniform was clean and pressed, her expression peaceful. She looked like someone attending a diplomatic meeting, not like the commander of forces that had brought the galaxy's greatest powers to their knees. Behind her walked General Lee Jinho and the other human leaders who had planned this war from the beginning. They took their seats at the center of the chamber, in the same spot where Admiral Korthvel had once condemned their species to isolation and subjugation. The alien delegates avoided looking directly at them. Some trembled visibly. Others kept checking their personal shields and security devices, as if expecting human assassins to materialize from thin air at any moment. The Galactic Confederation requests terms for ceasefire, announced a current speaker, a Vorthack crystal being whose harmonic voice cracked with poorly hidden terror. We wish to discuss ending hostilities between our peoples. Admiral Song stood slowly, her movements deliberate and calm. When she spoke, her voice carried across the chamber with quiet authority that made every alien present lean forward despite their fear. 8 months ago, you sat in the same chamber and declared war on humanity, she began. You voted unanimously to isolate us in our home system and bring us under your control. You threatened to eliminate us if we resisted. She paused, letting her words sink in. Several alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Today, we are here to accept your surrender. The terms were simple and non-negotiable. Complete withdrawal of all Confederation forces from human space. Reparations for the unprovoked attack on Earth and her colonies. A 50-year non-aggression treaty that would keep alien fleets far from human territory. But the most important term was not written in any document. It was written in the fear that now filled every alien heart when they heard the word human. Admiral Korthvel, the proud Draknari who had led the vote for war, now sat hunched in his chair like a broken old warrior. His scaled hands shook as he signed the surrender documents. His mighty Third Fleet, the pride of the Draknari military, no longer existed. Half had been destroyed in battle. The other half had deserted when their crews could no longer handle the psychological warfare that haunted their dreams. How? He asked in a broken voice. How did a primitive species defeat the combined might of 12 civilizations? General Lee answered with that cold smile that had become famous across the galaxy. You made the mistake of thinking we were primitive. You confused peaceful with harmless. You saw what we wanted you to see. Commander O'Hiram stood at the viewing window, watching Confederation fleets retreat into hyperspace. Ship after ship disappeared into the darkness, carrying with them the survivors of humanity's first galactic war. Many would never recover from what they had experienced. The psychological scars would last for generations. They thought they were fighting an inferior species, she said to Major Lim Jio, who was monitoring the alien communications one final time. They never understood that they were fighting the species that invented warfare. The reports coming from across the galaxy painted a picture of complete victory. Not just military victory, but something far more complete. The aliens hadn't just lost battles. They had lost their confidence, their sense of superiority, their belief that they ruled the stars. Human colonies that had been marked for destruction were now expanding freely. Trade routes that had been closed to human ships were now exclusively human territory. Worlds that had looked down on humanity as a minor species now begged for human protection from their own nightmares. Dr. Kim Tae-ho reviewed the final intelligence reports from his command center. The psychological warfare campaign had been more successful than anyone had dared hope. Alien military academies were changing their entire curriculum to study human tactics. Their children grew up hearing stories about the smiling death that came from the small blue world. "They'll never see us the same way again," he reported to Earth Command. "We become a monster in their closet, the nightmare that wakes them in the middle of the night." Back on Earth, the victory celebrations were surprisingly quiet. There were no parades, no grand speeches about conquest. Humanity had not fought this war for glory or territory. They had fought it for survival, and survival was its own reward. General Lee made his final log entry as the last alien ships disappeared from human space. They wanted to remind us of our place in the galaxy. They thought our place was beneath them, serving their interests, following their rules. He looked out at the stars that now belonged to humanity's children. They were right that we needed to learn our place. But our place was never beneath anyone. Our place is wherever we choose to make it. The galaxy had declared war on humanity, thinking they were crushing an upstart species. Instead, they had learned why Earth smiled when the decoration came. Humanity had been waiting for this moment. Not to prove they could fight, but to prove they had already won before the first shot was fired. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never forget the price of underestimating the species from the small blue world.